We will now resume meeting number 16 of the Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing orders. I'd like to make a few comments for the benefit of members. First, please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either Floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. The committee suspended its meeting on Thursday, December 4th, 2025, while debate on the motion was ongoing. Therefore, we are resuming this meeting on debate on the motion as amended of Xavier Barcelou-Duval, moved on Tuesday, November 6th, 2025. The motion as amended reads as follows, that the Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities request that the Departments of Transport, Revenue and Employment forward to the committee within 30 days of the adoption of this motion all correspondence, reports, emails and documents relating to the issue of noncompliance in the trucking industry since January 1st, 2018, and that the committee add 2 additional meetings of 2 hours each as part of the study of the changing landscape of truck drivers in Canada, so that in the first meeting, they can hear testimony from victims of heavy trucks and representatives of Justice for Truck Drivers, the Caledon Community Road Safety Advocacy Group, the Joy Smith Foundation, and in the second meeting, testimony from representatives of 6S Trinity Transport, J&R Hall Trucking, Dan Express, Carmen Transportation, Ludwig Transport Limited, the Association des Professionnels du Dépannage du Québec, and Canada Post. And colleagues, the speaking list had on it Monsieur Lauzon, who had the floor, followed by Mr. Albus, followed by Mr. Kellaway. Donc, c'est un plaisir pour moi aujourd'hui de
It is therefore a pleasure for me to give you the floor, Mr. Lauzon.
Merci. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to everyone who is here to help us in this undertaking. As you know, this is important to all of us. We might have found an agreement which would help all of us move forward. To this effect, Mr. Chair, I wish to directly offer 5 amendments to the motion.
Amendment number 1. It is moved that the following amendment be edited. Whereas the Cabinet of the Prime Minister, after the word employment and before the word forward. I'll give some time to the clerk. Amendment number 2, it is moved that we replace 30 by 60 to give a reasonable time frame so that we can prepare the documents. Amendment number 3, amend the following to 2018 by 2022, and that the departments and organizations that are charged with producing the documents proceed with a purge in compliance with the Privacy Act and the Access to Information Act. Amendment number 4, it is moved that the amendment that we replace 2 by 3 for the number of meetings, and with a list of witnesses, it's better that we spread it over 3 meetings. Amendment number 5, after the word Canada Post, we will add and the Association des Professionnels du Dépannage du Québec and witnesses from BC Trucking Association, Ontario Trucking Association, the Canadian Council on Transport Administration, and the Motor Trucking Association, and after these meetings, that the committee, pursuant to Section 1082, here begin a study of 5 meetings in order to modernize the ports of Montreal and Quebec and Canada in order to find new markets to reduce our dependence on the United States, that the committee report its findings to the House, and that pursuant to Standing Order at 108, that the government give a complete response.
Merci, Monsieur Lauzon.
Thank you, Mr. Lauzon. The clerk will distribute the amendments to the members. Does anybody want to speak to the motion?
A couple minutes to ensure that the clerk can focus on getting this out to members in both official languages. The meeting is suspended to the call of the chair. point of order to get us started.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, we are still in the same meeting that we originally started. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Meeting number 16, sir.
Yes. And so we have already voted on a port study before, and we found it to be out of scope. And so since we've already dealt with that particular piece of business, I ask you to rule that this is out of order, just simply because the committee has already dealt with that business once. And this kind of vexatious behavior where someone keeps raising the same amendment over and over, it flaunts the will of the committee. And I believe if you check with the clerk, and I hope that you do, that you'll find that that piece of it is out of order. The rest of it, I believe, is worthy of discussion.
So, colleagues, in the interest of turning this over to all of you for discussion, I'm going to rule that it is in order because I would like to bring this. It looks like we may actually have some kind of consensus here.
Mr. Chair.
I'm
Just,
still speaking,
could
Mr.
you ask?
Albus.
Could you ask the clerk, please?
I'm still speaking, Mr. Albus.
Because it is a valid point.
Mr. Albus, I'm the chair and I'm still speaking. Yes. Mr. Lauzon, I want to finish my thought first. I'm going to rule that it is in order, and if there are members who wish to object with my ruling, they can do so. Seeing no objection, I can now go to the speakers list.
If I could ask
and
you
I'll
to
turn it over
clarify
to you,
through the
Mr.
clerk,
Albus.
though, because the clerk had originally told us in this same meeting.
Mr. Albus, I've made my
that-
ruling, and I've explained to you that if you'd like
you know
to
what?
object,
If we're not
you can.
consistent with how we run this committee, Mr. Chair, eventually that will come and catch up with people.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Albus. I'll now turn it over to speakers list. Who would like to speak to the amendments put forward by Mr. Lauzon? I have Mr. Lauzon on the speaking list.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, in the amendments we introduced, they're all different because there are only figures and data that change.
Especially since we're talking about a 30-day time limit. We changed 30 to 60, 2018 to 2022. If Mr. Albus refers to that part of the amendment which, after the word Canada Post, to add the Association des Professionnels du Dépannage. Obviously, these are other witnesses we'll have to listen to. But in the last part, we have negotiated, we've spoken with Mr. Duval to include Quebec. This is a new aspect that we have in the amendment, so that pursuant to 108(2) of the regulation estimates that 5 meetings are required to look at the modernization of the ports in Quebec and Canada. So this is a new aspect because there's this issue that we see occurring in Quebec. It is a file that concerns all of us. This is why, in the agreement that we had, that we decided to add this to the motion, which was an existing beforehand, and so this is why we've added it today. Thank you very much, Mr. Lauzon.
Something that was shared by the clerk, which is that we will most likely. Okay, so just want to let you know that. Mr. Albus, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just, again, still in shock that we've allowed this motion to go, this amendment to go. So I'm, again, raising that in the latest 4th edition of parliamentary practice, it says on page 618, furthermore, motions moved in committee must not go beyond the committee's mandate or infringe upon the prerogative of the Crown relating to the appropriation of public revenues. A motion that is the same in substance as one that's already decided in the same session is inadmissible. However, a member may move a motion which, although similar, is sufficiently different to constitute a new question. So that's page 620. Mr. Chair, you've ruled previously that that such motions are out of order. This member, the same member, has made an almost identical study before, and we disposed of it as a committee. I ask you to reconsider that. Because this is about the rules of this place, and the 4th edition clearly backs that up.
Would you be able to do me a favor, Mr. Albus, and read that last portion that was on there? for the
Okay.
record.
However, a member may move a motion, although similar, is sufficiently different as to constitute a new question. Mr. Chair,
Albus,
it's
I
the
appreciate you
same. It
rereading
is the
that.
same motion.
My view
essentially.
is that it is not the same. There are other components that were added to it, thus creating something that, in my view, is significantly different from what was proposed before. And I invite you once again, if you do not agree with me, I'm turning it over to you to challenge the chair. These are part of the things that we can do in this committee, which you have done in the past. So if you'd not like to do so, I see no other members on the speakers list. We'll go to a vote.
In that case, I would put my hand up.
There were no other members on the speakers
No,
list.
sir, I have my hand up, and the rules are that if a member raises their hands in order to speak, and I did say I was going to place an order, and that I would be speaking on the list
Mr.
after.
Albus, I had no other
Excuse me,
members on
Mr.
the
Chair.
list,
I
and
said
called the
earlier,
vote.
if you want to stop and take a look at it, I said I would want to make a motion first, or to raise a point of order, and then I would speak to it.
That wasn't a point of order. I turned the floor over to you.
Yeah,
You
Mr.
made a
Chair, I would
statement.
like to have
Your-
my opportunity to speak.
You
May I
spoke,
please
Mr.
speak? No,
Albus.
I did ask earlier for me to be put on. Clerk, did I not ask to be put on the order? For
And you did, and I turned it over to you. I said, Mr. Albus, you have the floor. That was not a point of
Okay,
order.
I was making a point of order again, Mr. Chair. Now I'd like to put my name forward to speak.
Mr. Albus, the record
No,
will
no,
clearly
I-
indicate that
sir,
I turned it over to you.
I would
for,
like to
Mr.
speak
Albus,
to it.
first of all, do not talk when I am talking. I am speaking and I am the chair. What I am saying to you, sir, is that I turned it over to you for a point of order. You had your point of order. I invited you to challenge the chair, which you did not do.
And I
then turned it over to Mr. Lozon,
Out
who
of-
was on the speaking
Mr.
order.
Mr. Chair,
and
out
then
of-
I said, Mr. Albus, it is now your turn. You have the floor.
Okay,
It was not a point of order, Mr. Albus.
I-
Don't try and convince me that it was.
I was
You
trying to
used
make a
and
point of
you
order
did,
again.
No, you brought up the same thing you spoke to earlier, but
Well,
not
I would
on a
like to
point of
speak to
order.
the motion now.
And then I said there are no other members on the speakers list.
I put
and
my
I
hand
called
up
the vote.
again. I put
so
my
we are
hand
going
up.
to a vote.
I
because
put up
when
my
I call
hand,
the vote,
Mr. Chair.
We go to a vote.
I put
Mr.
up my hand,
Albus.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
You can
Albus,
follow
I'm
the
gonna call
rules
you
of
out
this
of order.
place.
I
You
am
can let me
speaking.
have my say. You've been giving Mr. Lazon the floor for the last 6 meetings. You can give me the floor for me to be able to make my representations on
Albus,
behalf of my position.
You had your floor.
Can I please have my
and
other
there's
members
nobody
please
else.
raise their hands?
And I called the vote. Yes,
Non, mais,
Mr. Bastille-Duval.
oui, appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
On a point of order, I understand that they're having a lot of problems with interpretation because there are several people speaking at once.
Let a member be heard. Can you?
So thank you very much. We'll go to the vote as
I would like to speak.
Mr.
It is my
Albus,
right as a member
I
of this committee,
clearly
sir.
called the vote.
I will be
There were
making
no
a point.
other
I will be
members.
raising this with the speaker. I would like other people to have their right to speak here, Mr. Chair. Could you please show the decency and the impartiality of your position? You clearly, I had my hand up with intent. This is not the time for you to be doing that. You should be giving members the opportunity to speak to a motion. I was raising multiple points of order, which you dealt with. I accept those rulings now, but I would like to have my opportunity to say my piece on this, and I will keep talking, Mr. Chair, because I believe it is. So I'm going to be taking the floor here, and what I'm going to be simply talking about is on the motion itself. So first of all, I talked about earlier about the
Mr.
committee,
Albus, you're out of
and
order.
I would like to
You do
start
not
by
have the
talking.
floor. I did not give you the floor. I gave you the floor.
This is
Your time was up,
this is
and we are going to a
reprehensible
vote, and
for
I'm
a chair.
instructing the clerk to go to a vote.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
I'm protesting this, Mr. Chair. I would like to have the opportunity to speak, please. This is the opposition, Mr. Chair. You need to
Mr.
be able to
Albus,
listen to
the
it.
vote has been called.
I
You
said
may not
earlier,
agree with
Mr.
it,
Chair,
but
that
the
I would be
vote has
making
been
my
called.
points of order, and then I would like
Mr.
to be on the
Albus,
list to speak.
The vote has been called. And if you
The vote has
continue to
not been
disrupt
called.
This meeting,
I
I
am
will ask that you
continuing-
be removed.
You
because
can remove
are-
me then. Please remove me then. If that is the case, if this is the kind of chairmanship that you represent, sir, where you're not going to
Mr.
let
Albus?
me speak directly to the motion, that is wrong.
Point of
That
order.
is
Mr.
intolerable.
Albus,
Point of
I have
order.
been very
I have been a
clear.
member of parliament since 2011, sir, and this is an opportunity for me to
We're gonna
speak. You are
suspend
shutting
so that
things
We
down.
can figure out
Point of
how we
order.
can regain control of this, and when we come back, we will be voting. The meeting is suspended to the call of the chair.
Mr. Chair,
We
I'd
are
like
going
to
to
know what
go
we're
each
voting
one
on. Are
of
we voting
these.
on each section of the amendment, Mr.
We are
Chair?
going to be voting on each one,
Okay.
one at a time. So, Mr. Clerk, please bring us through the votes, one after the other. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we should have debate on each part of it. We should have debate on each part of it. So if we vote on the first part, then we should have a debate on the second part.
Mr. Albus, the debate was done on
No,
this?
it was not done because you didn't let me be heard.
I did let you be
No,
heard.
no, sir. I
Your
did two
remarks
clearly 2
ended,
points
Mr.
of order.
Albus. I'm not going to
and
let
this
you
is
railroad
now
this
where
committee
I am
and turn
raising
it over to your whatever you're putting on right now. I
Mr.
turn the
Chair,
floor over to you, Mr. Albus.
Mr. Chair, you've
I
given
then
Mr.
turned it over-
Lazon how long to filibuster?
I then turned it over to
and
the
I
clerk
raised
for
my
the
hand
vote,
to be part of
and
this.
I'm asking the clerk now to conduct the vote as it
No,
was
no,
called.
no, that is not the way it works, Mr. Chair. I'm going to continue talking. Can someone let a member be now heard?
Monsieur le Président, point d'ordre, il y a toujours...
On a point of order, there is a problem with the interpretation.
So, colleagues, let's respect the interpreters. There are rulings that have been made. I've turned it over to the clerk. It is now the clerk's job to conduct the vote.
Mr. Chair?
Clerk, please
Mr.
conduct the
Chair?
vote.
No,
Point d'ordre,
Mr.
Monsieur
Clerk,
le Président,
I think you have to have it where
On a point of order, Mr. Chair?
happen right now. There's not a dilatory motion has not been made. Mr. Chair,
Once the-
I put my hand up.
Mr.
You
Albus,
refused to do it.
Once
Could
the,
someone please let a
once the
member now
chair
be
has
heard?
called the vote happens. I called the vote. There were no other people on the speakers
I
list.
had my name down on
is
it.
now up to-
Mr.
The vote has been called, colleagues. The vote,
No, the vote
vote
has
has
not
been
been
called.
I have the right to be able to speak at this
Minutes ago,
committee.
guys.
I have the right to speak at this committee. I think you need to be able to hear from us, Mr. Chair.
Monsieur Mou, vous avez la main élevée. Avant. Avant. Avant d'avoir fait le vote.
Members, you need to hold up, Mr. Chair. You have. I would like to speak to the motion. It's quite simply, I'm just in complete shock in this situation because I think we should be having a discussion over what is being debated, not the process itself. And so what I would like to start doing is start talking to the actual motion. And the motion itself, I believe, is flawed.
So, colleagues, we are going to go to a vote. Mr.
Mr.
Clerk,
Chair?
please go to the roll call.
Mr. Chair? No, Mr. Clerk, I have the floor right now, and I would like to continue speaking to this.
Mr. Albus, you don't have the floor. You have not been
Yeah,
given
I
the
have been
floor.
speaking to this. Mr. Chair, I have rights as a member.
You do have
to
rights
be
as a
heard,
member.
and I did put my hand
And you
up,
did
and I
put your hand up,
did
and I
ask
gave
to
you
be
the
put on the
floor.
list, which I thought in good faith that you would carry through. But if this is the way that it's going to be, where you are ramrodding this process and not allowing conservative voices to be heard, I think that is just
You
a big
were
mistake
heard,
on your part.
and
No,
if
I
you're
did
unhappy with
a
the way
point
that
of
you
order.
used your
I
time,
respect
that is
your
not
point
the
of
issue
order,
of the
but I want
chair,
to speak
Mr.
to the
Albus.
motion, Mr. Chair.
Your name was on the list. I turn the floor over to you once again.
You know what? Don't. This is about my rights as a member. I would like to be able to speak to the motion. Mr. Lazon has put
Mr.
forward a
Albus,
motion
you
after
do not have the floor.
days and
You do
days
not
and
have the
days
floor.
of it. Mr. Chair, this is something I'm insisting on that I get a
You do
chance to
not
speak to the
have
motion.
The floor. Mr.
You know
Albus.
what? But this is a mistake that I'm hoping that you will rectify and give a member
It wasn't
the
a
ability.
mistake. I
Yeah.
turned the floor
No,
over to you.
Mr.
You used
Spear-
your time to reiterate your objection to a decision made
No,
by
Mr.
the
Chair,
chair.
I have
then
arguments to
saw
speak
there
to
were
that, but if
no
you are
others
railroading
that were on
this,
the
Mr.
list,
Chair-
and I called the vote. So I'm gonna
No,
ask
no,
one
no,
last time to
Mr.
the
Chair.
clerk,
I asked
please
my
call
name
the
to be
vote.
put on there. I asked my name to be put on there, Mr. Chair, and I looked to me that you simply nodded as in that you would have me the ability to speak. I raised 2 points of order, which you dealt with, but then I thought you would simply then go back to the list and allow me to speak. Mr. Chair, we can keep going on this all day long. But I would like the ability to talk to the motion the same way that every member here should have that opportunity, but you seem to be denying me today, sir.
Mr. Clerk?
No, I would like to continue talking, so I'll just start off, Mr. Chair.
You do not have the floor,
Mr. Chair,
Albus.
the issue here is that
I'm going to
the
suspend
ports.
because we've lost control of the meeting due to the comments made by Mr. Albus. The meeting is suspended to the call of the chair. Colleagues, I'm going to turn it over to the clerk to explain what the voting procedure is going to be. And we're going to have the roll call. And then, just to clarify, after we are done with the vote, we are not completed because we still have to debate the motion as amended if it is indeed adopted. And if members want to have their hands up, please make it very clear now before we get into any chaos if they would like to speak at that point. Or after we're done, please put your hand up at that point as well. Okay? So, Mr. Clerk, I turn the floor over to you, sir.
So the vote will be on the amendment of Monsieur Lauzon. Which one? One single amendment. The amendment that was distributed to members.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Albus.
I'm assuming we're doing Amendment 1, correct?
We are doing the amendment, all the changes that Mr. Lauzon had put forward, itemized. We're doing them all in one vote.
No, Mr. Chair, again, it's very clear, and again, I'm using from Procedure and Practice 4th edition. In most cases, there is no limit on the number of amendments that may be moved. However, only one amendment and one sub-amendment may be considered at a committee at one time.
Yes.
So essentially, you're having one amendment that you say that we're going to vote on, and then we're going to have all 5 of the other ones at the same time? That makes no sense.
Just
you
to
can
be
only
clear
have
to members,
one amendment or a sub-amendment
Mr.
at a time.
Lauzon had put forward changes to the motion as put forward by Mr. Barcelou-Duval. In order to make it as simple as possible
Point
for
of-
members, he itemized them and said, this is the first part that I'm changing, this is the second part that I'm changing, this is the third part that I'm changing, this is the fourth part that I'm changing. So what we're voting on is exactly what Mr. Lauzon spoke to in his remarks.
Point of order.
Which is all of those. Yes, Mr. Gros.
Merci de me donner la parole. J'ai reçu,
Thank you
moi,
for giving me the floor. I received the amendments, but Amendment 1, they were all separate. Amendment 3 was separate. As a member representing my region, I have no difficulty voting on each and every amendment, but we should have the right for the people in our region to debate each motion before we go to the next motion. I received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 different amendments. I received it like this. So when they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 3, then 4, then 5, I received them separately, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Golo.
Just to ensure that we're following the rules. Monsieur Groslo, Monsieur Lauzon a soumis, a mis de l'avant.
Mr. Lauzon put forward changes, and to clarify and be as clear as possible, given the current context, he said, okay, this is the first thing I'm changing, this is the second, third, fourth, fifth, but altogether, these are my changes. That's what the result is. So we will vote on all of that together.
Allowed me to speak to the motion because if we're going to be pulling all 5 separate amendments that were circulated by the clerk, if you're going to be lumping them without unanimous consent and not allowing us to speak, that is not okay. My rights as a member, you should be giving us the chance to speak to it. I'd ask you to reconsider that and allow us to speak to that. This is unfair in both process and just as our rights of members of Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Albus. I appreciate that, and I always want to ensure that you're given your rights as a member. And I just want to reiterate for the record that the floor was given to you, sir. You were done with your remarks,
point
and
of
the
order.
vote was called. It was not on
On
a point of order, and the
it
video
was,
will
sir.
clearly
It was
show
clearly,
that, sir.
I was talking about what member of parliament quotes the fourth edition of procedure and practices, unless it is a point of order.
Okay?
Come on, let a man
Unfortunately,
speak.
we're gonna disagree on that, Mr.
speak
Albus,
on
and I
the direct
appreciate that.
amendment. I would like to have
Thank
that
you, Mr.
opportunity, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate that, Mr.
Okay,
Albus.
well, good. Then I'll start talking
No,
to it then.
Mr. Albus, I did not
So,
give you the floor. Mr. Albus, you
in
do
essence,
not have
Mr.
the
S-
floor.
Mr. Chair,
Please, I'm
the
going to say
way
this
that-
one time. Mr. Albus does not have the floor. I'm going to make that very clear. He has not been ceded the floor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Muse also had his hand up and has been trying
And-
to get your attention, and you have not given it to him. He's been trying to get your attention this whole time, and you're ignoring
I
his
am
side
not.
of the room.
I am not
When's the last
ignoring
time you were
any
on this side of
member.
this room?
I am not ignoring any member at all.
Oh, well,
I turned the floor over to you, Mr. Albus, when you had your hand up. You used the opportunity to speak to something else.
what about Mr. Muse? He had his hand up.
Mr. Muse did not have his hand up on the speaker's list. I can tell you what the speaker's list is. I jointly manage the speaker's list with the clerk, Mr. Albus. So with that, I'm going to go to the vote. Let's go, Mr. Clerk.
Point d'ordre,
The vote's
Monsieur le
been
Président.
called. The vote has been called,
Point
colleagues.
d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
On a
Please
point
proceed.
of order,
The vote has been called.
Of Stéphane
Point d'ordre,
Lauzon.
Monsieur le Président.
point of order, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Greaves,
I vote yes.
Mr. Kellaway,
Yes.
Monsieur Lauzon. Miss Wien.
Oui.
Mr. Albus,
No.
Monsieur Grelot,
Non.
Mr. Lewis.
No.
Mr. Muse,
No.
Monsieur Barcelou Duval,
Oui.
Yeas pour 5-5, nays contre 4-4.
The amendments are adopted, and now we will go to the debate on the motion as amended. And for that, I turn it over to you, Mr. Albus. Are there any other members on the speaker's list, just to be clear, before I give the floor over to Mr. Albus? Seeing none, Mr. Albus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's talk about the motion that is currently forward. First of all, I just want to reiterate my objection to the process today. In fact, I believe that we're going to be documenting this and raising it with the proper authorities. I just want to thank the clerk for trying to be as impartial as possible. Unfortunately, it seems that there's been a lot of pressure put on the clerk today. What I am going to speak about today is the fact that moving on to a new subject, such as ports may be a process or a study that perhaps we want to involve ourselves in. But I'm going to point out that the government members have failed, as well as the government have failed, to come on our BC Ferries study. Now, Mr. Chair, I believe you and the clerk offered the former Minister of Transportation, Chrystia Freeland, the opportunity to come. And so far, that has not happened. Now, she is no longer she's a sitting member of this place, but she's no longer in the cabinet. So maybe I'll just leave that there. I do think that she has a moral obligation, given the fact that her fingerprints are all over the BC Ferries. Again, for the people at home, the BC Ferries issue has where the Canadian Infrastructure Bank has given $1 billion of your taxpayer money to BC Ferries that effectively are now outsourcing Canadian jobs to a hybrid shipyard in China. A hybrid shipyard, which I'm just going to make the quick reference to, means that both civilian and military vessels are created there. So right away, when Chrystia Freeland was on the House of the Chamber, and she said that she had written to Mike Farnworth, the minister, she has said that she had issues with the procurement, and in that letter that we eventually were able to track down, she actually relayed concerns relating to national security. Now, I can't think of many things, Mr. Chair, that should trump almost anything, even the business about not letting members of Parliament be heard, is our national security. National security is fundamental. It's the reason for the state, the raison d'etat. C'est important pour un gouvernement
It's important for a government to protect the people, particularly the country's sovereignty, and everyone is aware of the challenges working with a communist regime such as China. It's very important to reassure the people that the tap is ready for, the state is ready for all of the challenges, particularly with respect to security and sensitive issues, and the sensitivity of people working on this boat.
Security directly with Minister Farnworth. And BC Ferries immediately came out and said that the sensitive systems that would be on these boats would be dealt with at another area. Now, Mr. Chair, I did check in with some people in the industry who said that their familiarity with a turnkey contract, such as the one that was procured to the shipyard, it's turnkey. Literally, it means everything is done on site. We had unions come and talk about their concerns about steel and about some of the ways that workers are treated, the lack of environmental laws, and also being a former vice chair of the Canada-China Relations Committee in previous parliaments, I will know that many people have cited that the technology that China utilizes in a lot of its goods, not only are they subsidized, where again we'll be buying $1 billion worth of subsidized Chinese steel, aluminum that undercuts labor, but also they have access to those systems and what goes in it. And we've actually seen in some European countries some questioning now whether or not that is a safe thing to do, particularly when it comes to electric vehicles. But getting back to national security and Chrystia Freeland, as a former minister, she would be well aware of this. And when she wrote that letter to Mike Farnworth, and Mike Farnworth and BC Ferries both responded. By the way, Mike Farnworth was very upset that the government was questioning the province of BC. But again, I think many of our citizens would say the geopolitical risk, the Prime Minister said himself that the biggest geopolitical risk to Canada, threat, I believe is the word he used, is China, the communist government in Beijing. So, Mr. Chair, the fact that we were asking about national security and wanting to bring her in, because, fun fact, Chrystia Freeland actually wrote to the Minister of Public Safety outlining her concerns around national security. And in it, she actually criticized BC Ferries for not having a Made in Canada policy, which I'm just going to say for the record, Mr. Chair, I find absolutely hilarious because Marine Atlantic itself, a Crown Corporation, a federal Crown Corporation under Ms. Freeland's portfolio, she neglected to mention that she did not have a Buy in Canada procurement policy either. So, Mr. Chair, how does this relate all to the motion? Well, that's really easy. It relates back that there are outstanding concerns of national security that only Chrystia Freeland, in her capacity as the former minister that was there during this process, wrote letters to both ministers provincial and ministers federal, can answer. Now, some Liberal members in here may be perfectly fine to allow Ms. Freeland, you know, she's a former minister, let's let her off the hook. She's done enough for the country. Well, to be fair, sometimes when you're just on the way out, because as we've heard, she's accepted a prestigious job at Oxford. And I just want to take a moment just to say, I take issue. Now, I don't believe that politicians should be telling the press what to write or what headlines to have, but I did see one where it said, Chrystia Freeland takes prestigious position at Oxford. And I said to myself, Mr. Chair, being a member of Parliament is pretty prestigious. And I think that that's a point that needs to be made. It's pretty prestigious because you speak up for, some cases, 115,000, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less people in your constituency. And to be overruled and to be told that you didn't have your hand up by some authority outside of yourself, denying your constituents the ability to make substantive arguments to motions. Well, I might be going into previous territory, Mr. Chair, and I want to stay on the motion at hand, because Mr. Lizon knows, a pro knows how every 3.5 minutes that you need to return back to the motion itself. Now, the Minister of Public Safety, who is, as far as I understand, still in cabinet, and despite some of his major errors, such as having his private conversations recorded by a tenant where he began to disagree publicly with government policy, he's still the minister. And as the minister, he is supposed to be accountable to Parliament. But yet, we have this parliamentary committee that has been completely absorbed by the ongoing filibuster, at least until earlier today, by Mr. Lizon, where, again, he hasn't had the opportunity to come. And so this is where I will just start this, my intervention today, with, again, saying to the Minister of Public Safety, we need you. We need you to fulfill your end of the bargain, that when you went up and swore an oath as a minister that you would not take private advantage of your office, when you take that oath at Rideau Hall in front of everyone else, that is a commitment to being accountable and not to just simply think of your own comfort. So I say again to the Minister of Public Safety, we need you here at this committee. And for us to start launching off, as much as I know the Liberals want to switch the subjects away from BC ferries and the safety or the lack of safety on Canadian routes, highways, I know I could see why they'd want to talk about something that is more to their liking. But, Mr. Chair, one of the great things about minority parliaments is it's not just up to them. And in fact, I've never questioned when someone begins to filibuster or filibusters. It's because as long as they can simply hold the room and continue every 3 minutes, 3.5, to talk about the motion like this one here, where we are actually trying to proceed with moving on a port study without finishing the previous study. I think it's time that Conservative voices are heard on this committee for once. It seems that we constantly are hearing from Liberal voices or are being told we can't speak. And I don't think that's something that we're going to tolerate today. So, moving on, the Minister of Public Safety. I'd like to ask the Minister of Public Safety a number of questions. For example, Marine Atlantic does have one of these vessels operating in its fleet. And I would like to know 2 things. First of all, there is an important piece of legislation called the Protecting Child Labor and Protecting Children from Forced Labor. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, the name of the bill has escaped me, but it was actually a Liberal bill, and so every entity that is covered, such as BC Ferries, such as Marine Atlantic, has to submit on a yearly basis where it talks about whether or not its supply chains have been compromised by forced labor or child labor. And obviously, when we look at the situation with the government in Beijing, they were very unhappy when Parliament voted that what was happening in China with the Uyghurs was intolerable. And I just hope that everyone around this table would agree with me that that is intolerable. That is under the area of the Minister of Public Safety. I'd like to see if BC Ferries has submitted an updated form on this so that we can know that the minister has been looking into these components before we proceed on a port study as was suggested in this motion. Now, furthermore, I'd also like to know, Mr. Chair, is with the Marine Atlantic, because the Marine Atlantic vessel itself, the ownership is actually Swedish. And I'm not sure if members know that, but it appears that the Swedish owners are leasing it on a 5-year basis, I believe that there is an option to buy. Now, there's questions in my mind because, as we all know, you always pay more for a lease than when you purchase. But I could see the national security implications by the great officials at Public Safety Canada would probably say, well, it's not a permanent addition to Canada. It's owned by a foreign company that is sailing under a limited lease. So therefore, we don't need to investigate potential technology that may be perhaps collecting information that we're unaware of. And so, Mr. Chair, I think that the BC Ferry situation is quite different. So having the minister himself come here and answer these important questions when it comes to Marine Atlantic and the procurement of these vessels with Canadian taxpayer monies, I think it's a fair thing to ask him to come. Now, Liberals may be comfortable with simply just moving on. Conservatives are concerned about this procurement. We're concerned that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, which is flowing this much money, I know that the Bloc Québécois in a previous parliament voted along with Conservatives saying to repeal the bank altogether. I think many of my constituents would be very, very worried to see their tax dollars, instead of supporting Ontario Steel, Quebec Aluminum, because let's be frank, Mr. Chair, there's a lot of steel and a lot of aluminum in here. And one other thing I'd like to ask the minister when he comes. Did you know this, Mr. Chair? Did you know that the Minister of Public Safety is charged with remission orders? So when a company wants to bring in a large ferry vessel, such as the procurement, it's actually the Minister of Public Safety that can provide a remission order to Cabinet. It's his recommendation. I would like to hear from the Minister of Public Safety to whether or not he will be giving a remission order, effectively bypassing tariffs. Now, I know that the Prime Minister made a huge deal when he went to Sault Ste. Marie to talk to the workers, where he said we are going to be clamping down on Chinese cheap steel. And he made a big deal of it, saying that there would be 25% tariffs, some cases on certain other products, maybe even higher. Now, he did that, he said, to protect Canadian workers. Well, Mr. Chair, I don't think that he's doing such a great job of protecting Canadian workers because, first of all, as we can see, Algoma Steel has had tremendous pressure put on it by the unjustified tariffs by Donald Trump and his administration, and obviously we've seen 1,000 layoffs there already. Now, we've also seen $500 million go to this company, and we don't know under what parameters.
Chair?
But,
Point of order.
Mr. Chair,
Excuse me, Mr. Albert.
Just wondering if we can get to a point of relevance. This doesn't seem to be relevant to what we're discussing today. But I'll yield the floor just to say the relevant points don't seem to be emerging. We're going all over the
very
place.
much, Mr. Callaway. Just going to remind all members to try and bring it back, as I said multiple times to Mr. Lauzon, to the motion at hand.
Yes.
So, Mr. Abels, I'll turn the floor back over to
so
you, sir.
I'll directly point it to the motion, Mr. Chair, because the Prime Minister said that he would be putting these high tariffs on Chinese steel in order to help groups like Algoma. He actually said that when he was in Sault Ste. Marie. And I'm sure many of the workers were heartened by that. But if we do not have the Minister of Public Safety come in here and tell us whether he will recommend through a memorandum to Cabinet whether or not he recommends a remission order, because essentially if it's his recommendation that these BC ferries come into this country essentially tariff-free, that's now Canadian taxpayer dollars are going out of this country, and in fact, the Chinese subsidize their steel and whatnot, and then we're bringing it in, undercutting essentially the tariffs that the Prime Minister said were there to protect Canadians. So having the Minister of Public Safety come to this committee and tell us where he is at on forced labor, child labor, on the issue of compliance with that regime, in terms of what his thoughts are, if he has thoughts, because maybe he hasn't thought of it yet, Mr. Chair. And I will say this, I've had ministers come to this committee. I remember when I asked Minister LeBlanc about whether or not he understood that C5 would give him tremendous powers, Mr. Chair, that he has yet to use.
Point of order,
We
Mr. Chair.
wonder- One second, Mr. Albus. I see Mr. Greaves' hand is up. Mr. Greaves?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm far away, and I wish I were there to engage with the member on the important other matters that the committee might take up. But I do wonder whether we could dispense with the current motion, which the member doesn't seem to be speaking to. He seems eager to talk about the BC Ferries issue, which the committee could gladly return to, but it's not the matter under study, and it's not the one of the 5 amendments that have been put forward at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greaves. It's not a point of order, but I will once again just remind everyone to please speak to the motion at hand as best possible.
I'm glad to hear
Mr.
there's
Albus, the floor is
one
yours.
member that wants to talk BC Ferries, so I invite Mr. Greaves to call up the Minister of Public Safety to have that conversation with him so we can bring him here. So then maybe after those requests are satisfied, we can then move to new business as certain members of this committee want. But I think it's perfectly fair to say, Mr. Chair, that if we have a ledger of things we want to do, I'm okay for putting new things on the list. But I will say that we as a committee committed to hearing from both Chrystia Freeland. We committed to hearing from the Minister of Public Safety, something that was agreed to by all members. I, in fact, remember Mr. Callaway stressing that when Ms. Freeland would come to this committee, she would give us answers. And by gone, she would give us answers that would satisfy us and maybe even make us shut up on this side. Now,
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
On a point of order, Mr. Chair. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lauzon. Mr. Albas, this is outside of the scope of the issue at hand. There are 2 rules, one for the committee and one for Mr. Albus. Mr. Albus has often intervened during times when I've been speaking, and now Mr. Albus, he's completely off track with respect to the motion. I'd like us to talk about the motion, and I'd like us to get back to the motion. Thank you again, Mr. Lauzon.
All these point of orders, just try and speak to the motion as much as possible when the floor has been given to you. And as Mr. Albus had pointed out in previous points of order, within a couple of minutes, just circle back so that we can avoid other members calling a point of order for Mr. Albus.
I really appreciate your guidance on this, Mr. Chair. I'm just so thrilled to have the ability to actually speak to I was thrilled to have Mr. MP Greaves also speak in sight of his interest in BC Ferries because, as I said to him earlier, it would be very helpful for Conservatives to know that we are done with the issue of BC Ferries because we've had the ministers come in, they've answered questions, they've been accountable to Parliament. But, Mr. Chair, I do see the bells ringing.
Okay, colleagues, if we want to continue debate, we would need unanimous consent to do so. If not, you are forcing me to suspend. So I see no unanimous consent. Colleagues, I will suspend the meeting, and thank you all for your time. The meeting is suspended to the call of the chair.